Imagine someone offering you a guaranteed 50% return on your money. Not in a year, not in a decade, but in exactly 45 days. You'd call them a liar. You'd call it a scam. But in the sweltering summer of 1920, the city of Boston didn't just believe it. They mortgaged their homes for it. They emptied their life savings for it. They handed over millions of dollars to a charismatic Italian immigrant who claimed to have broken the laws of mathematics. How did one man build an empire of illusion so powerful that it nearly bankrupted an entire city? And what was the fatal, hidden calculation that brought his house of cards crashing down? The terrifying truth? He never invested a single dime of it. Today, we are unraveling the verified, chilling facts behind the original architect of financial ruin. The man who didn't just commit a crime. He became its very name. This is the Charles Ponzi mystery. Before the tailored suits and the gold canes, Carlo Pietro Giovanni Guglielmo Tebaldo Ponzi was just another face in the crowd. When he stepped off the SS Vancouver in November 1903, he had a staggering disadvantage. He later wrote, "I had $2.50 in cash and $1 million in hopes." But hope doesn't pay the bills. For years, Ponzi drifted. He washed dishes, he waited tables, and eventually, he moved to Montreal to work for a bank run by Luigi Zarassi. This is where Ponzi learned his darkest secret. Zarassi's bank was paying out unusually high interest to its customers. How? By quietly stealing the deposits of new customers to pay off the old ones. When Zarassi's scheme collapsed, he fled to Mexico with the cash. Ponzi was left behind, broke and desperate. He forged a check, was caught, and spent 3 years in a Canadian prison. He later served another 2 years in an Atlanta penitentiary for smuggling illegal immigrants. By 1919, Ponzi was a 2-time convicted felon in his late 30s with absolutely nothing to show for his life. But then, a piece of mail arrived from Spain, and Charles Ponzi noticed a tiny, seemingly insignificant piece of paper inside. It was called an international reply coupon. Back then, if you sent a letter overseas, you could include one of these coupons so the recipient could exchange it for a postage stamp in their own country and reply for free. But Ponzi noticed a massive loophole. Post-World War I, European economies were in ruins, and their currencies had crashed. Ponzi realized he could buy a coupon in Italy or Spain for the equivalent of 1 American penny. He could then ship that coupon to the United States and exchange it for a US stamp worth 5 cents. That is a 400% profit, guaranteed by the government. No risk, no stock market crashes, pure, legal arbitrage. He set up this securities exchange company and opened his doors. The pitch was intoxicating. Give me your money. I will buy millions of these coupons overseas, trade them in for stamps, sell the stamps, and give you a 50% profit in 45 days. On paper, the math was flawless. It made perfect, logical sense. But Ponzi was hiding a fatal flaw, a physical impossibility that would soon drag the entire city into madness. By the summer of 1920, Boston lost its mind. Word of Ponzi's magic money machine spread like wildfire. Thousands of people choked the narrow alley of School Street, fighting police lines just to shove their money into Ponzi's hands. Widows handed over their life insurance. Working men mortgaged their homes. Police officers in uniform invested their pensions. Money was pouring in so fast that Ponzi's clerks couldn't even count it. They were literally sweeping piles of cash into wastebaskets and locking them in closets. He was bringing in an estimated $250,000 a day. In 1920 money, that's millions per week. Ponzi bought a mansion. He bought a diamond stick pin. He bought a custom locomobile. He even bought the very bank that had previously fired him. He was a god in Boston. But, remember the Canadian bank? Remember Zarassi? Ponzi wasn't buying coupons. The entire empire was a ghost. He was simply using the avalanche of new money to pay the early investors. It was the ultimate psychological trap, and the clock had just run out. The beginning of the end came in the form of a relentless financial journalist named Clarence Barron. Barron looked at Ponzi's claims, and he didn't look at the money. He looked at the math. Barron published a devastating calculation in the Boston Post. To cover the millions of dollars Ponzi had taken in, he would need to have purchased and moved roughly 160 million international reply coupons across the Atlantic Ocean. Barron checked with the United States Post Office. Do you know how many of these coupons actually existed in the entire world at that time? 27,000. 160 million required. 27,000 in existence. The illusion shattered. The Boston Post ran front-page exposés revealing Ponzi's criminal past in Canada. A massive run on the company began. Thousands of furious investors surrounded his office, demanding their money back. By August 12, 1920, the Securities Exchange Company was raided. Federal agents found exactly what they expected. No coupons, and an estimated $7 million in debt. The infinite money machine was dead. Charles Ponzi served years in federal and state prisons before being deported back to Italy. He spent the rest of his life chasing new schemes, always failing. In 1949, the man who once made millions of dollars a week died completely blind, partially paralyzed, and utterly penniless in a charity hospital in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. He left behind exactly $75 to pay for his burial. Ponzi didn't invent the scheme. He learned it in Montreal. But he executed it with such brazen, psychological mastery that history etched his name onto the crime forever. The Ponzi scheme works because it preys on the oldest human vulnerabilities: greed, trust, and the desperate desire to believe in a shortcut. From Bernie Madoff to modern crypto collapses, the ghosts of Charles Ponzi are still walking among us. If someone offers you something that seems too good to be true, remember the math of 1920. If this deep dive into the origins of financial fraud fascinated you, hit that like button. It genuinely helps expose these stories to a wider audience. Leave a comment below. What modern scandal do you think has Ponzi's fingerprints on it? Subscribe and hit the bell for more mysteries of famous frauds and scams. I'll see you in the next investigation.